Oh, there we go. Hi, this is Andrew Davey with Nevada Forward, and we're here with John Tsarpalas from Nevada Policy Research Institute. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you for getting my name right. It doesn't happen often.
Yeah, I try. Well, first off, we're here at the Conservative Leadership Conference on Las Vegas Strip. Very eventful week. But let's start with some issues here in Nevada. First off, the Clark County School District has been in the news. Superintendent Skorkowski is on his way out, but he won't be leaving until next June. Do you feel comfortable with Skorkowski staying for the next few months? And what would you like to see with whoever comes in to replace him at CCSD?
Well, I'd like to see beyond that. First of all, we've got some real budget issues, obviously, and they need to get to it. It's not, they're acting as though it's a surprise, this budget problem, but it isn't. It's been coming for years. NPRI, Nevada Policy Research Institute, talked about this over a year ago, about there's going to be problems with the teacher increases in pay and other things happening. And some of the things we've been pointing out at NevadaJournal.com, which is our investigative reportive site. We did a series on the bureaucracy at CCSD. One of the problems we have there is someone will work for CCSD, retire, and then come back as a consultant and then get paid. Someone needs to look into these kind of contracts. There's a whole lot of, we feel, just waste and too much money being spent on the bureaucratic end of CCSD. So there's ways to deal with the money issues there. Now, do we have enough money? I don't know that answer at the moment, but my guess is with proper management. And the other problem is you've got this giant school system. Big things don't run well. I mean, one of the underlying concepts here at this conservative conference is government doesn't run well. It usually doesn't. There are more efficient ways to do things. Now, I don't want to get into school choice at this moment because that's a whole other thing. You asked me about CCSD. However, breaking up this school district into smaller districts might be a better idea. Why? Because you actually get competition. One of the things that happened back in Illinois where I used to live is people fled bad school systems and moved to better school systems because every suburb had a different school system. There was competition amongst the districts. They were all government-run schools, but at least you had competition. Here, you have some better schools here and there. People kind of know where they are, but there's no way to compete. It's got this one system for the entire valley, and it's bad. It's rated, the worst in the country by U.S. News and World Report. So until there's some form of competition, so I think breaking it up if you want to maintain the government system, but a better way would be more charters, more educational savings accounts, fund those, give parents a choice, more private schools. Competition breeds efficiency. Competition comes up with better ways and better results. We have that with our phones. I mean, there's a huge competition there. There's no competition in schools, and that's a problem.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unwind. So let's next get to, since you brought it up, AB 394, which passed in 2015, and then AB 469 this session to reorganize the Clark County School District. Are you satisfied with how that's been moving along? And
well, I'm glad they did something.
Yeah.
It's moving in the right direction, but it didn't break up Clark County School District. The bureaucracy is still there. It gave more power to the schools, the individual schools, which is great. Okay, so a little less decentralization, giving some judgment to the local school, the principal, the local people in the town. That's good, but you still have that same bureaucratic nightmare that they've got to go back to. That hasn't been broken up. And I don't know. We'll see where that goes. We'll see if it's enough. But my guess is until you have true competition, it's never going to be enough.
And speaking of never being enough, one reason that's often been given for our constant problems with public education in the state is the sense that our schools are underfunded, that we're not investing enough in public schools. It led to our Republican governor here, Brian Sandoval, in 2015, when he had a Republican legislature announcing, hey, we need to raise some taxes if we want to get if we want to get better schools,
Well-
if we want to, modernize our economy. So obviously, I suspect you take issue with that, including what our Republican
do.
governor's been doing.
I do. First of all, there are much more creative ways and other ways to do this. We're stuck within this structure of the teachers' union, and teachers, I'm all in favor of teachers. I'm in favor of teachers getting more money, more pay to the teachers. I'm in favor of merit pay, but I'm in favor of eliminating tenure. Bad teachers should go, good teachers should get more money. We don't ever look at the structure. All they ever say is more money, more money. And Sandoval fell into the same thinking, old school trap of it's about more money. Well, we have been increasing the amount of money in the school district here for the last, I don't know how many years, 20, 30, 40 years at least. There's been increased money to the schools, but never any increase in outcome. So why do we keep going back to the same ideas? Let's try some new ideas. Perhaps we should look at some little things. How about people like all-day kindergarten? But there's also been findings that after the third grade, it's irrelevant if somebody had all-day kindergarten. But parents possibly like it because it's a way for them to have childcare. Okay, so we get that. So why do you need a teacher for the afternoon if it's just childcare? Perhaps it's a half-day kindergarten for some in the morning, and you've got less kindergarten happening, but then you've got some childcare. That cuts a little cost. We can do lots of different things at looking at how we can rearrange traditional government schools into better run and new ideas. But there's never any change because the union doesn't allow it. It's not the teachers, it's the union that doesn't want change. It's always about more for them. How about collective bargaining being open? Why can we not see what's being negotiated between a union, the teachers union, and the school district? We're the taxpayers. We're the ones who have to pay for this. We have open meetings for all government meetings except for collective bargaining with unions. That's wrong. We should know what's going on. We should hear what's being said.
Now, what would you say to education advocates on the other side divide? I spoke with someone else last week who described it in reverse, that there always seem to be all these interesting ideas on what to do in our schools, but we never have enough money to actually follow through with it. And brought up the example of Zoom and Victory schools, that we finally have some schools that are providing enough English language learning programs, providing programs to help kids learn, but there's not enough of that for all our students.
Okay. We're completely in favor of trying small programs, experiments, see what works, what doesn't work, and then if it's proving itself, fine, grow it. But we're not trying the experiments. We're not trying alternatives. And the alternatives tend to be all about more, never about different. Let's think about some different ways. There's kids out there that learn in different ways. I mean, I should have been a kid who didn't sit at a desk for 8 hours a day. Should have been a kid that had more variety. I mean, there's lots of ways to go about teaching different people in different ways. A lot of this is going to end as schools become more tech-oriented and we get away from the traditional school. But that could be 20, 30, 40 years. How many generations more are we going to punish in these bad schools?
Yeah.
Try something. Experiment.
Yeah. And finally, well, we still have some time. I wanted to ask about education savings accounts, aka school vouchers. Critics have described it as vouchers on steroids. Passed in 2015, but blocked by the state Supreme Court last year. This year, the program wasn't funded. Were you disappointed that the ESA voucher program couldn't go forward this year? And what do you say to critics who see it as, well, this is just another way to subsidize private school for rich kids?
Well, first of all, there's 200,000 kids in this state who live in low-income situations, stuck in bad schools. So how is this subsidizing? The ESAs were for anybody, absolutely anybody. Again, back to wanting to separate us into different groups, the rich against the poor against the middle class. How about kids are kids, let's help all kids. And if this is so good for rich kids and they'd want them, why wouldn't you want it for poor kids too? Don't tell me that, this is a program for that. Okay, yes, we were disappointed it didn't happen. The idea was to give parents about $3,800, $4,000 per kid per year. The money could have been used to go to a private school. And why not? Why shouldn't they have a choice? Why should it only be, they could only go to the government school, only go to the school that the government is mandating? Gives them some options. But it also could have been used for tutors, English as a second language, help in certain subjects. For poor kids, it could be used for books, for pencils, for a computer, for something that would help them. The parent would have the choice. Who would know better to help the kid than a parent? A caring parent should know. Now, I understand there's certain situations where the parents have their flaws, but that's rare. That isn't the norm. So let's look at how we can try something different. I think an ESA would have helped. A small amount of money there to see what would have happened. We could attract those ESA kids, see where they went. Did they go to private schools? Did they just opt to use it for tutors and things? And then what happened? What was the outcome 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Are their test scores going up? But no, teachers union says no, we're not going there because, my goodness, they might go to some school that isn't a union school. Therefore, we cannot get our dues and keep our control on the system. That's really the bottom line. It's wrong. It's wrong because of what it's doing to these kids.